Hello, welcome. Happy Tuesday. I am so glad you're here. Good news, I found my microphone. There's a significant number of boxes in my office that were not here yesterday, and in one of them was my microphone. So, fingers crossed, it's a little less echoey today from both the microphone and the insane number of boxes that I brought in the house again. Okay, anyway, moving on. Let's talk about my favorite thing. And my favorite thing, I say loosely, but it is one of my favorite things to share with you. So let's talk about my favorite cheat code, my favorite little way to get around a block, because that is where we're at. Okay, so let's just start off. Let's try to get everybody on the same page because we got a lot going on right now. Hi, if you're new here, my name's Rebecca. I like to be a menace. I like to be a menace in my human life, and I like to be a menace in the spirit world as well. And in my menacing, I get blocked very often. And we're going to talk about what blocks are, why they happen, how to not do what I do and get blocked very often. But I also want to share with you one of my favorite ways to circumvent a block. And probably Spirit maybe doesn't want me sharing this, so fingers crossed the information is getting to you. Fingers crossed this video is working. My goal with this video is to try to give you so much information that no matter where you are kind of on your spiritual journey, on your spiritual path, you can take something from this. So we're going to start with what blocks are and kind of why Spirit needs them, why Spirit uses them, all of that information. If you are brand new, just starting out on your journey, that's maybe where you're going to stay. Okay, maybe don't play chicken with Spirit just yet. Just get the info and tuck it in your brain for later. Okay, but if you've been playing a little bit of chicken, just a little bit, then you can get some of the more colorful details from this video, okay? The colorful kind of ways that we stay active in our spiritual journey and kind of get okay being uncomfortable and get okay being blocked temporarily. And I know that seems almost counterintuitive. Why would I be okay being blocked even just temporarily? And I'm not saying to be okay being blocked. I'm saying that blocks are going to happen. And again, we're going to talk about it in a second. Blocks are going to happen, and we need to be okay sitting in that energy while we find ways to be active within our spiritual journey, which I know again sounds counterintuitive. What the hell are you talking about, Rebecca? Give me a second. I'm getting there, I promise. So we're going to talk about just kind of sitting in that energy, being uncomfortable, and how we can continue to work our spiritual gifts, our psychic gifts, our intuition connection while we're in that hump. We'll just call it a little speed bump. So what is a block? What do I mean when I say, oh, I'm blocked, or you have a block? What the hell are we even talking about? Okay, block is an umbrella term, right? There's a lot of things that fall under the umbrella of the word block. And a lot of different situations come up when we're talking about blocks. It's going to be very, very individualized, and not all blocks are bad. Okay, some blocks are there on purpose for very, very specific reasons. Other blocks are not. Other blocks are there from maybe we had some trauma, maybe we had some fear, maybe we've made unconscious blocks, maybe we've made not necessarily blocks, but huge walls, huge barriers, right? So there's a number of different things that can fall under the term block. And again, not all of them are bad. However, I do want to share with you how to be aware when you are coming up on one, either in your shadow work or in your kind of spiritual path. And maybe when one has been shimmied on top of you, right, for a number of reasons. The first thing that I want to just kind of make sure we're all on the same page about so that we can get through this information without having really big fear triggers come up. So when I talk about blocks, I just have to emphasize not all blocks are bad. Whether they are human blocks or spiritual blocks, they are not always bad. The word block or you have a block does not inherently mean you have done anything wrong. In fact, I encourage people to put up those walls, put up shields against things that you do not want to work with, deal with. You have choices, right? So blocks can be boundaries, right? Those walls can be barriers and boundaries that can be very, very helpful. And other blocks are put in place so that things don't come up until you are in a place that is safe, in a place that you can rest, in a place where you are able to actually deal with whatever that block is holding back. So just because you have a block, again, does not mean you have done anything wrong, does not mean you are being punished. That is a really, really big one. Just because you have a block, or even if you had a block shimmied on you, it does not automatically mean you're being punished. Even in my case, I don't feel like I'm being punished. I feel like I'm being put in a playpen, like a little baby, because that's probably what I'm acting like to Spirit, right? And I don't think it's a punishment. I think it's for safety, right? We put safety gates up for kids that don't understand falling down the stairs can be very dangerous. I feel like I've been put in a little baby safety gate. Okay, so even in this case, I don't feel like I'm being punished. Blocks do not mean that you are being punished. Blocks do not mean that you have done anything wrong. We're just going to throw that notion out the window, out the door right now. Because again, if we are trying to learn, but we just are feeling all this guilt and all this shame and all this, man, if I had only done better, if I had only known better, that's not helpful. We're not doing that. We are just going, oh, okay, we're learning something new. I haven't done anything wrong. This is great info, even if she's a little bit insane. It's fine. We're going to keep going. In my brain, I like to group the blocks into kind of like two categories. So we have like our human blocks over here, and we have more of our like spirit blocks over here. The fun little info I'm going to share with you is geared more towards the spirit blocks. So let's talk about what I kind of just feel like are more human-y blocks first. Those blocks being shadow work and past life, because that's the human stuff, right? Like that's the human side of it that we are trying to work through, be it one thing or another. I feel like shadow work blocks are the easiest place for us to start with this, because we kind of already have just a general understanding of like blocks in our trauma, blocks in our shadow work, blocks in the things that we are trying to work on, right? Our inner work. So shadow work being the shadow parts of yourself that you're bringing forward, that you're bringing to the light, that you're not hiding and pushing back anymore, right? So if we're thinking about it in terms of that, if we're thinking about blocks in terms of bringing things forward, a block would prevent that, right? Because some of those things we packed away very nicely for a reason, right? Like we're paying for that storage space. Why would we bring it forward? Okay. So we have blocks that are put there by ourselves, by our spirit team, whatever, for a number of reasons. Some things we are not in a space to deal with at all times. Some things we need a very safe, a very calm, a very loving, a very accepting space to deal with. And so those blocks are literally there to help us function and help us hopefully be a functioning adult in this place, whatever's happening right now. Now that I think about it, functioning adult is like a really big ask. So let's just aim for functioning or adult. Okay, so functioning or adult. I don't think we're going to do both. We're just going to do one or the other, okay? So let's say you are functioning and or an adult. And you have your handy dandy little blocks in place. You've tucked them away, you buried them down, you have hopefully gotten out of whatever situation caused those blocks in the first place. You are hopefully somewhere safe, hopefully in control, hopefully feeling very functioning and or adulty, okay? And let's say that you have a goal and now you have this block that is preventing you from reaching this goal. This goal could be family based, this goal could be career based, it could be anything, right? And so we have this goal, but we know that we have a block that's stopping this progression, that's stopping us from reaching this goal for one reason or another. And that's probably more than one block, because of course it is, right? But we're just going to pretend it's one for right now. So we have this one singular block preventing us from being our functioning adult goals, right? That is when you want to look at that block. At that point is when we start to say, okay, where is this block coming from? Why has this block come up? What is it there to help me? What is it there to prevent from happening? And do I need it anymore? So at that point, that's when we start looking at removing blocks. This same logic can be applied to past life blocks. And lucky for us, more often than not, our past life blocks are linked to something of the shadow work, of the trauma drama of this life. And it could be linked to, generally it's like a theme, but it could be linked to really anything. So you could have a theme of like betrayal, a theme of abandonment, or even for me, I have a theme of drowning. What is it? I don't know. But I just have so many lives where I have ended my human life under the water, and it's been very, very traumatic. And in a lot of cases, I've seen myself. Some cases I was removed and kind of watching it happen to me as I was floating above. In other cases, I did not remove until the very last second. And so as my weird water stuff comes up, I'm a very weird person. There's a lot of weird stuff that comes up for me. But as my weird water stuff comes up, I know that I'm having a really intense reaction to it that is not kind of warranted from my experiences in this life alone. And so as those come up and as I process them out, because now is a really good time to process that energy out. Now, with all the shifting and the merging and the realities and the craziness that is happening, the energy is moving. The energy is moving very quickly and very easily, a lot easier than it used to be to process and to kind of get those hooks out and get that energy gone. So lucky us, we're processing all of this stuff out. The tip that I'm going to show you that I call kind of like checking the borders, checking the edges, you can apply that same tip to the shadow work and to the past life kind of blocks as well. And try to find just whatever the theme of it is. And I'll explain more down the line, but just this can be applied to finding the theme of whatever the emotion is, whatever the drama is, whatever the trauma drama is from past lives, this life, whatever, you can use this same trick to find the theme and then to kind of almost target a little bit more specifically to reach your goal. So just for the sake of my brain, the shadow work and the past life, I just kind of refer to as the human blocks, even though they're still spiritual, right? We're humans having a spiritual existence, right? But human, okay? Just tuck it over there for a minute. Let's talk about the spirit blocks, because those are the ones. Those are the ones that I want to show you. I really want to show you how to work the edges, how to check the borders of. When we think of our human blocks, when we think of the past life and the shadow work blocks, typically there was a human involved in the placement of that block. Typically, we're the human involved in the placement of the block, but typically a human is involved, right? Be it you as a human, maybe I put this block up when I was a child, or be it your past human self saying, hey, let's just help my future human self out for a minute and put this block in place. Typically, there's a human involved, okay? Now, in spirit blocks, there's not always a human involved. Sometimes it's your higher self putting the block in place. Ask me how I know. Sometimes it's a spirit guide. Sometimes it's any number of things. Sometimes it's just an accidental merging from other versions of yourself. Just because there's a spirit block in place doesn't mean it has been put there because you, again, are being punished, because you've done anything wrong. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have any reason to be upset or to be afraid, even though I get very annoyed at them anyway. To be fair, I am aware that spirit gets equally annoyed with me. They're probably more annoyed with me because, like I said, I like to be a menace. So again, do with this information what you will. I am not saying to do like me. I'm just telling you what I do. I am not being held responsible for what you do with this information. Okay, so blocks can be put in place for any number of reasons. They are often in place for our safety. I know, I get it. Okay, and I do it anyway. They're often in place for our safety. And if you are going to play chicken with spirit, be in a place where you are comfortable with your own power. Be in a place where you're comfortable with your own ability, where you really, really trust yourself, because you cannot play this game of chicken if you don't have that trust in yourself. You cannot be this active and push this hard if you are second guessing yourself at every step. So take from this what you need right now. Take from all of this what you are working on right now and just tuck the rest in for later, okay? So we are being kind to ourselves. We are being very sweet and loving to ourselves. We are not feeling guilt. We are not feeling shame. We are being confident. We are knowing our power. We are knowing our ability. Let's know a little bit more about why these blocks are in place and what we can do about it. Now, you might be thinking, Rebecca, why are you making a video about how to have cheat codes for blocks and how to get around the blocks if blocks are good and they're put in place for a reason and they're there for safety? I'm so glad you asked. So three main reasons. First main reason, I'm a menace. It's a core personality trait, and it's like just this game I've been playing with spirit for my entire life. I don't even know. I'm a menace. Reason one. Reason two, just because we have a block doesn't mean we have to all of a sudden stop being active in our spiritual journey. I am very much a person who feels like we need to take control. We need to make decisions. We are living this life. We need to have equal say in our spiritual journey about this life. You need to be active. Don't be passive with it. And just because we have a block doesn't mean we need to all of a sudden be passive anymore. We should still be trying to be active. We should still be asking but why and questioning and trying to reach our goals. Just because something is making it hard, putting a block over, whatever it is, doesn't mean we stop trying, right? And the final reason being that I just feel like now is the time for us to reevaluate what we want spirituality to be. Now is the time for us as a collective, as individuals, as spiritual beings on earth, as all of this energy comes in and changes and new opportunities and new things are possible. We are able to decide, again, as a collective and individually, what we want our spiritual journey to be, what we want spirituality as a whole to look like. And this is my way of encouraging spirit to also reevaluate what working with humans looks like, what is possible on earth right now, what is the new way of teaching lessons, that what is the new way of guiding, things that were not possible before because of what energy could and couldn't do on earth as a whole, right, is very, very different than what energy can and can't do on earth now. And that is true for how our guides can connect with us. That is true for how we work with the ancestors. That's true for how we process energy. Everything is changing. And it's just my opinion. Do with this what you will. I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. I am not saying this is how you have to have your spiritual journey. Take from this what you will. But it's my opinion that I want a team that works with me the way I want to be worked with. I want spiritual guidance the way that I need it right now. And if you as a spirit guide had a human that constantly kept getting around the borders, that constantly kept getting through the blocks, that constantly kept popping up in places you told them to sit still in. If you, as a spirit guide, had a human that just kept constantly making your job harder, I would hope that you would reevaluate how you did that job. I would hope that you would get with the human and with her my wider, fuller self, all of that energy. I would hope that you would find new ways to do things that match what me as the wild human needs on my spiritual journey. So this is my way of encouraging spirit to get on board with kind of waking up, shaking up, doing things a little bit different. And it's also really important to know that when I'm doing this, when I am pushing boundaries, when I am like being a menace, when I am going toe to toe with spirit, I'm not just throwing caution to the wind. In fact, I have the most caution. It's just I am very specific with who and what spirit I let guide me in this. I have spiritual guides, we'll just put it that way. I have spiritual guides, be it my guide team, be it my fuller self, be it members of other people's teams even, that I feel like I trust, that they know me and I feel like I know them to the extent that we are at an understanding on what I expect of spirit and what spirit expects of me. Because when I'm doing this, again, if you are going to have big girl pants on, you're going to have big girl responsibilities, right? Like I'm not doing this without responsibilities. I'm not doing this without caution. It comes with an understanding. It comes with an understanding that when you are in the big leagues, you have big league things to deal with and you have to be able to deal with them if you're going to push these boundaries. So I am holding so much caution. I am in constant communication, just constant checking with my intuition. And if I feel one of the spirits tell me, hey, I wouldn't do that, or hey, it's time to back off, or my intuition says something's not right here, I'm pausing, I'm stopping what I'm doing, and I'm sorting that out. I am giving that the highest priority. I'm giving that the highest respect. And you have to have trust with yourself in order to notice those things, in order to do this safely. So we are loving ourselves. We are trusting ourselves. We are not feeling guilty. We are not feeling shame. We are having a solid bond with spirit. We are having a solid bond with ourselves, with our intuition. We are going slow and proceeding with caution while we be a menace, okay? Let's talk about some of the most common spiritual blocks that I'm seeing right now. The big one being we have we have so much shifting and merging and combining and shedding and transmuting energy, and there's the planets and there's the oceans and there's the aliens. There is a lot happening right now, right? Like there's fae and there's like veils just folding in on itself, and it's so much, okay? And our human bodies can only handle so much at one time. And if you are sensitive to energy even a little bit, it could be a lot. And if you are highly sensitive to energy, it definitely is a lot. It is a lot all of the time. And our human bodies, like I said, can only handle so much at once, depending on so many different things. So sometimes if it does get to be too much, or even if we just have something inhuman we need to focus on, we can have a temporary block just to kind of give time for either us to focus on what we need to focus on as a human, or give time for the energy around us to just kind of settle a little bit before we open ourselves back up to receiving all of that stimulation all the time. Now, if you find yourself in this situation, or even suspect that you're in this situation and you're ready to kind of reopen yourself back up, there's a few things you can do. You can start by just like being open with your team about it. Just think in your head or talk out loud, however you communicate with your team. Let them know like, hey, if there is a block in place because of everything happening, can we open it back up? And you can say, can it be open all the way, or can you open it some way? You can try to give them percentages. You can visualize. Sometimes I tell people to build something for it, right? If we have all of this energy coming in, but we can only handle like a smaller amount, build a funnel. All that energy needs to go through a funnel, and only so much of it can go through at one time. Or you can build a filter system. You can build some type of machinery. You can just let them know like, hey, knock it down 50%, whatever works for you. With visualization, people being me, myself, I'm like, well, okay, well, if I visualize it, it makes it real. Am I actually building it, or am I just telling my team and my spirit team what to do? And I came to the conclusion it doesn't actually matter, because in the end, I'm getting what I need. So whether you are actually building it with your visualization, or you are just verbally telling your spirit team what you want, in the end, if it gets you where you need to be, you are where you need to be. A really common thing that we are seeing right now are kind of blocks in regards to certain energy or certain types of beings. And this This is one of the things that gets really funny because it could technically qualify as either a spirit block or a human block. It can have past life links, it can have inner child links. There's a whole number of things, but there could be, for whatever number of reasons, a block on a certain type of energy. Maybe when you were a kid, a being from that energy scared the crap out of you, and you were just like, nope, never again. Maybe in a past life, you had really bad run ins with a certain type of being for whatever reason. Maybe in an astral life, you have a certain type of lifestyle that makes you a target, and you need to kind of make sure that doesn't come into your human life. There are so many reasons, right? And so if you have a block from a certain type of energy, first thing you're going to do is try to find out why it's there. Who put that block there? If it's something that came up when you were a kid, you can pull up that inner child. You can talk to them. You can ask them to remove it. You can give them something to protect themselves. Do what you need to do to make that inner child feel safe, to make you feel safe, so that that block can come down. If it is a block because you have a certain type of astral lifestyle that makes you more of a target, I would maybe leave that block up until you are, I don't know. That's up to you. I would maybe leave that block up because, again, if you are trying to prevent something from spilling over into your human life, I don't know if now is the time you want to remove that or not. You can do what you want. But then there are certain cases where maybe, ask me how I know, maybe you just have a block up because spirit doesn't want you poking around somewhere into a certain type of energy. That is where this cheat code lies. And again, yes, I'm a menace, of course, but also I expect a certain type of understanding between myself and my team, between myself and my fuller. I feel like I'm being held to big girl standards as a spiritual being, as a human on earth, as what I am contributing and being asked of me right now. I expect a certain type of respect in return. I expect to be treated like an adult and have a say in my active journey. And so I personally don't appreciate blocks being put on that I don't understand. Now, I know that as a human, I am not going to understand a whole bunch of stuff. I know that as a human, my understanding is very, very limited. And I know that the more I know, the less I know. And so I want to emphasize, I don't go in here expecting to understand it all. I do expect communication. I do expect somebody to come answer some questions. I do expect something in return for the standards and the understanding that I have come to with spirit as a whole. Now, I personally believe that everybody's spiritual journey is going to look very, very different. And there is no one way that you should be doing this. There's no one correct way that you should be doing this. However, there are certain paths that feel like the way I treat my team, I treat spirit, is very disrespectful. There are certain paths that feel like this is not the way to do it. And I completely understand why they feel that way. I completely understand from their point of view why the way that I act to spirit can be really fucked up sometimes. And again, it's not without a mutual understanding. It's not without a long journey to get to this point, but it is not for everybody. And if you are working with certain types of spirits that this would be considered disrespectful for, don't disrespect spirit. Like, have a mutual understanding in whatever personal way you need to have that mutual understanding. Just because I'm doing it this one way doesn't mean everybody should do it this one way. It can be very disrespectful if you have a certain already established type of understanding with spirit. So just please keep this in mind. Please trust yourself. Please trust your intuition. Please know that in all of my arguing, all of my toe-to-toe with spirit, all of my being a menace, there is a level of mutual respect that is up here too. There is a level of understanding that I am a human and I don't understand. And there is a level of understanding that I am aware enough that I am not going to be ignored. I also do typically give kind of a grace period, especially when there's just a whole bunch of energy stuff going on. It can be very, very complicated, and it can be very difficult for spirit to kind of get through to communicate with you, especially depending on where that spirit is located. It can be very difficult for a spirit to get through to you if there's just a whole bunch of stuff going on. Either if there's a whole bunch of stuff going on Earth, be it shifting and changing, or maybe they have a whole bunch of stuff going on. There's a level of mutual understanding, and I do give a grace period as well. I typically say 3 days. That's just my general rule. I typically say, well, if I'm not getting anything right now, I will give 3 days, and I will continuously try and check in. I'll give 3 days before I really start to push, before I really start to question, before I really start to be a menace. And if after that 3-day mark nothing really changes, and I don't see any shifting, I don't see any opening back up, I don't see anybody coming to answer questions, then I start to get a little frustrated. Then I start to work the edges. So let me tell you what I mean by work the edge. So first and foremost, I basically break your connection into 2 different categories: your intuition connection and your conscious connection. If the information that I was told still stands. Your intuition connection is never truly broken. There's a lot of weird stuff that can happen, and like it can get kind of weird and can get conjumbled and like messed up or whatever, but that's basically where you're plugged into. That's where your human is plugged into, to that intuition connection to your fuller self, whatever version of it. And it is very hard to unplug your human from its power source. So that connection is always going to be there if the information still holds true. That connection is always there. However, it can be very hard to hold that connection and a thought. It's very hard to hold the connection and a thought in your brain at the same time. And so if you feel like you are just connected, but you're kind of just on a boat, going wherever the boat is going, there's a good chance that's your intuition connection, and there is nothing wrong with that. It can be very helpful to have a friend help you out in that case. If you have questions and you have your intuition connection, either write your questions down and give them to a friend or try to refer back to your questions. But if a friend can ask you the questions and you can just channel the answers, that tends to be a lot easier than holding the intuition connection and holding a thought in your brain at the same time. But I am a 5-year-old and also the eldest daughter, so I'm probably just going to throw a fit before I actually ask for help. So let me show you what that's going to look like for me. So here I am minding my business, probably not, but let's pretend I'm minding my business, and I go to ask Spirit a question, and I throw my question out, and I feel nothing. I don't feel anything. I don't feel any energy. I don't get any response. I don't get anything back. That's my cue that there's a block, right? Okay, there's a block there. Let me figure out what's going on. So I'm probably going to just start with calling my team, whoever I've been working with, whoever I've had the easiest connection with, my fuller, different spirits, different people on other people's teams, right? I'm just going to call and see who answers. I'm going to feel around and see what energy I can feel and who can feel me in return. That's really weird, right? But I'm just going to throw some feelers out and I'm going to see what's there and I'm going to see who answers. Now, when I throw those feelers out, typically I'm still sitting in the energy of whatever my question was, right? So I'm throwing the feelers out and I'm saying that I want answers from whatever the question was I wanted the first time. And that's going to be important in a second, right? So I'm probably still asking for answers about the question that I originally asked and I got no information on. If I start to get answers back from different spirits, different team members about that same question, then more likely than not, whatever spirit I was trying to reach is just busy right now. However, if I still get no response from anybody whatsoever about that question and the energy of that question, then now I'm going to start to wonder if I have a block involving that energy, that specific question. Now, if we're being honest, y'all have been with me on this wild ride involving like my hires for so long now and involving where are they? What are they doing? Why is nobody answering me involving my hires? That is the true reason for this video today. That is my little Menace to Society program that I've got going on, because I have been having this block involving my hires for a very long time, and it will temporarily become unblocked and then all of a sudden it gets blocked again. And I have all these theories and I have all of these guesses, but really nobody is talking to me about the situation. So this is real life what I have done. Before I jump in, I need you guys to know that this is extreme examples. Okay, I've been playing this game with spirit for a very long time. Okay, I've consciously in my human brain been trying to be a menace to spirit for over a decade. Okay, they know my tricks, they know my games. Okay, and they know me all too well at this point. So these are extreme blocks that I have in place, and they are extreme because I have been doing this and because I continue to push. And so, yes, I've done this to myself. But at the same time, the fact that I see how extreme these blocks are, the fact that I see how extensive they are and how seriously they are being taken, that is my sign to know not to just try to knock them down, not to just push through them. I'm going to continue to ask questions. I'm going to continue to get information as best I can. I'm going to continue all of my other spirit and human responsibilities involving the temple and spirituality and helping other people and all of these things. I'm going to still continue everything that I have come to an agreement to continue to do. But I am being a menace and taking it seriously at the same time. So I need you guys to know that this is extreme. I have done it to myself. Take from this what you will. And in the extremity of it, is that a word, extremity? In the extremity of it, we're going with it now. I understand that it is something to be taken seriously. So just keep all of that in mind as we go through this journey together. And while I am pushing my luck with spirit, while I am kind of like being a menace, I'm not forgetting about my like personal and spiritual responsibilities, right? I mentioned I'm still doing all of my like temple work. I'm still doing all of my leadership work, all the people that come to me for guidance and support and safety. Like I am still holding that in the highest regard. I am still weighing that very, very heavily. And that's another reason that when I get the feeling in my gut to pull back, that I don't push. When I get the feeling to stop, that I don't go over into like a disrespectful line, because like I said, it's all personal. It changes for everybody. And I'm not out here encouraging you to disrespect spirit. Okay. So I really am trying to be very, very careful, especially the bigger spirits that you deal with. You don't want to cross over and be disrespectful. And I don't want to risk doing anything that just cuts me off completely and I'm not able to help and fulfill the responsibilities that I have stepped up to fulfill. That is all just stuff to keep in mind to kind of help you understand the weight of, going toe to toe, the weight of pushing the boundaries of finding these borders. Okay. So we're not out here just doing it willy nilly. We're really like weighing the consequences and the benefits. And we're really looking at the understanding that we have with spirit and all of these things. Start very slow, start where you're comfortable with, and really just find that footing for yourself before you really start to tussle with spirit, right? Okay. So what I am doing, I find that block. First thing I'm doing is seeing if I can help other people with their stuff. If I can help other people with their stuff, our understanding and agreement is still standing between me and spirit, because that's part of the agreement that I have. I will hold this boundary. I will hold this responsibility. I will take personal consequences for whatever I do over here, as long as I am still able to fulfill what is happening over here. And because of the work that I am doing, because I am on call with spirit in a very interesting way as part of the agreement, there is a mutual understanding there. Okay. So if we are both still upholding our end of the agreement, then the agreement is that I'm going to push the boundary, right? So yes, when I am checking to see if I can help other people, I am seeing if the agreement is still being upheld. If it's not, this video would go a whole different way. We would be down a whole different path. Okay. But yes, I'm checking to see if the agreement is still being upheld, but I'm also checking to see if the block has anything to do with anybody that I am helping that's not related to me. What do I mean by that? Okay. So typically, because it's me, because they know my games, my blocks are placed on my story. They're placed on things that are involving me and maybe my immediate circle. Okay. Typically, people that come to me through the temple or just off of here, off of wherever, right? Yeah, a lot of you are in my immediate circle, but not everybody is. So if I'm finding somebody that is not in my immediate circle, energetic wise, human wise, whatever, and there's still really weird blocks there, and those blocks maybe match up some of my personal blocks, that gives me a clue that maybe the block has to do with the type of energy in general, not me personally. And if something is happening with the energy in general, more often than not, it's some type of shifting or merging. It's like a bigger collective consciousness thing at play. It's not something that's personal to me. And so at that point, I'm going to start checking the boundaries of exactly where this block starts and exactly where this block stops. For the sake of this video, we're just going to pretend that everything that I'm getting is like personal to me though. So everything over here is good. I can help everybody else. There's no blocks with anybody else going on. Now it's personal. I love when it's personal because that's where things get fun. I do it to myself. I know I do, but let's go anyway. So what am I actually talking about when I say check the borders, check the perimeter, find the edges, right? Let's assume I know I have this block, okay? We're just gonna remember, I'm just talking about my personal self for now. This block is gonna be a little dome above me, okay? So I send my energy off and I'm like, hey, tell me about my higher self. Nothing is there. And I'm going like this because energy, like it goes in different directions. I specifically can feel where certain types of energy goes. It's very wild, right? So I'm sending my energy off over here. I'm going, hey, higher self, hey, fuller self, somebody talk to me. Nobody's answering me, okay? I'm going to go over here and I'm going to check some of my favorite spirit friends on other people's teams. I'm going to see first if I can connect to them. I'm going to see first if they will answer me. I'm going to go, hey, you there? What's up? Can I feel you? Can I connect to you? Now, like I said, they're onto my games. So in a perfect world, before they were onto my games, I would find a spirit and they'd be like, yeah, I'm here. What's up? What's up? And then I would be like, hey, tell me about my higher self, right? And I would try to jump in and see if they answered me right away or not. This is where they're onto my game. So I don't even get to connect to some of the spirits anymore, okay? But before they were onto my games, once I was connected, I would, hey, what's up? How's it going? I would check the energy connection and then I would jump, really quick switch to the energy of my higher self. Hey, have you seen her? Hey, where she's at? Hey, what she's doing. Okay. And it's what the reaction is to that switch that tells me if that is actually where the block is or not. So if I am chilling and we're chit chatting and everything's fine, and then I do that switch and all of a sudden it feels like a wall comes down, all of a sudden it feels like a barrier. It's normally like an invisible wall. All of a sudden that pops up and I can't feel, maybe I can kind of still see them on the other side of the wall, but I can't feel that energy anymore. That's going to tell me that that block has to do with my higher self. That is going to be a very big sign, a very big flag that that is part of the perimeter of the block. It's almost like you are trying to, on a map, draw the edges of the block, right? Like if you are standing in the middle of the paper, you're just laying down spread eagle on the paper, right? You are trying to find, I know what I said, you are trying to find where that block is, right? And so I know that the energy is not getting off over here towards my higher self, but now I know that the energy can actually go this way. It can go to that spirit friend on that team over there. It only blocks when I am asking about this specific energy. Now, I'm somebody who likes a little bit more data. I like to watch the patterns, okay? I get all my information from the patterns. I like things in groups of three. I like to see things happen in groups of three before I call it a pattern. Typically, I'll do it over a course of like 3 days. So, what those 3 days look like, right? I know I can connect to the spirit friend here. I know the wall only goes up when I ask about my fuller self, okay? So, I'm gonna maybe I did that in the morning. I'm not gonna do it all at once because, like I said, they'll catch on to your games. So maybe I did that one in the morning and I will go about my day normal. I will try to chat with other spirits. I will try to avoid the subject. I will try to sit calmly and patiently because, like I said, I understand things are a little bit crazy and I understand that as a human, I don't understand everything. But I will still keep asking other spirits questions. So maybe later that night, I find another spirit, I send the energy, I check the connection, I spring a new style of like, hey, what's my fuller doing, right? And I see if that wall comes up in the same way. If they're expecting the wall, you can get some really, really funny responses. Like I said, they've caught on to me. So sometimes I'll get spirits who just like play along for the fun of it. Because why not, right? Like we have an understanding. So just be cautious. Different spirits will handle it different ways. It's really fun game we play, okay? Like I said, I know I do it to myself. It's fine. Everything's fine. So over the course of 3 days, I will try to get that same reaction, that same response from at least 3 different spirits. And then I will say, okay, there's my number 3. That's my pattern. This block is probably got a border around my higher, fuller self, whatever they're off to. And I can do other things as long as I don't venture into trying to ask about them, wondering about them, searching for the energy of them, etc., etc. So now we know that my block is very specifically regarding my fuller self, right? So we thought the block kind of was like a full encompassing dome. But really, when we started asking more questions, I realized I could talk to this spirit. I realized I could send my energy over there. I realized I could get information here. It's really just like right here, like a little offshoot right there that's blocked. It's not the full thing. That information alone can be really helpful. Sometimes you have so much going on that you're just like, that's fine. Y'all can deal with that and let me know when it's handled. I'll just be doing my business over here. So if that is enough for you, by all means, stop right there. But I am a menace. I need to know. I need more information. So I am going to keep pushing the boundaries of right here now. So I know the block is not all the way over here like we originally thought. I am going to redraw my boundaries. I'm going to draw my map specifically in that direction now and see where the block starts and ends as far as that energy goes. Now, once I've kind of established where the block is and isn't, I'm not jump scaring spirits anymore, okay? And again, I just want to reemphasize that the spirits that work with me know that this is how I operate. And if I was to work with a spirit who thought that that was disrespectful and I were to do that with them, the spirit's not going to work with me anymore. And that's within their full right. Like if I go against our agreement and I did something that you clearly said was disrespectful, I'm going to have consequences to that. And likely that consequence could be more, it could be less, but it's likely going to be that that spirit's just not going to work with me anymore. And so I am keeping in mind respect during all of this. And at this point, I'm no longer doing those like sudden jumps, those sudden switches, because that does get really annoying and that does get disrespectful really fast. So when I go back to these spirits that will talk to me again, now we're just laying everything on the table. I know, you know, they know, I know, here's where we're at. And it can actually be a really, really helpful conversation when you do just lay everything on the table like that. Because you can say, hey, spirit, I know that you can't tell me about this. Is there anything that you can tell me about this offshoot of it? So for example, I'll say, spirit, I know my fuller is blocked. Can you tell me, is she safe? Can you tell me how my energy is connected? Can you tell me how my energy is affected by this block? You start asking other questions that are connected to the subject that is being blocked, but are just kind of offshoots of that subject. You are again seeing what they are allowed to answer and what they're not allowed to answer and what they do say. And again, very specifically, we're paying attention to also what they don't say. At this point, if you weren't already getting what I call placeholder answers, you're probably going to start, because sometimes a placeholder answer really truly is the most help that a spirit can give you. I would prefer no answer over a placeholder answer personally, because spirit can use placeholder answers as a distraction sometimes, and it can be very, very hard to know if it is the answer you're looking for or if it is a distraction. Now, what do I mean by a placeholder answer? How can they actually get away with that? A placeholder answer is just basically an answer that is technically, energetically true, but is not actually giving you the information you want to know. Some of my favorite placeholder answers are just your typical spiritual mumbo jumbo, like it's not time, or you have shadow work to do first. We always have shadow work to do. There's always shadow work that needs to be done before we can get to the next goal. So, like that, yeah, that's true. Yes, everything happens in a time. Yes, it's not time yet. That doesn't tell me what I want to know. Okay. Placeholder answers that look like distractions can look something like this, right? So I'll go, hey, Fuller, where you at? What's going on? And I'll start to shoot off fuller questions to anybody that answers, right? And let's say another spirit comes and says, hey, chill out. This is actually connected to your past life. And so now I focus all of my attention on this past life thing that technically is connected through an emotion, through something that I need to process, whatever. It's technically connected. I found something there that is connected to whatever this block is. But that block probably isn't because of whatever the past life connection is. Technically, it's connected. Technically, it's true. But that is not actually the information that I wanted. And that is why placeholder answers drive me insane, because it's typically spirit knows what you want to know and they just choose not to tell you. And in this case, there are rules spirit has to follow. They're not just choosing not to tell me. They actually don't want to get in trouble and they don't want to mess up the plan. And there's like all these other things involved, right? And it's not that they're just not telling me because they don't feel like it. But they know what you're asking and they're giving you a placeholder answer anyway. Depending on what the block is, depending on how often you play this game, depending on how well spirit knows you or how well you've established your boundaries and your rules and your agreements and your understandings, this entire process can take a really long time. I have been on again, off again with my Fuller for months, for absolute months. And sometimes they just pop back up out of nowhere. I haven't done anything. I haven't changed anything. They pop back up. They give me some information. Maybe a few weeks later, they disappear again. I start this process all over again. And of course, I'm still remembering everything that I've learned before, everything they told me before. I'm double checking all of that. That is helping me just decide what to ask and what order to ask. That alone, I can watch patterns. I can see what works, what doesn't work. I can see what works for me, what works for other people. This is all information. Even though we have to do this over and over again, it does get faster. You do get smarter. You do start to see patterns. It's just a practice thing. It's just a muscle that you work out, right? So even though we have to keep doing this process, even though spirit drives me insane, you're never starting from zero again. You're always working on what you knew before because you have a really good foundation, right? Like you've spent the time doing the foundational things. You have a good foundation. You're just building up each time. So yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, it's a very fine line to walk, but you are gaining information. You're gaining experience. You're gaining knowledge. It's not going to be worth nothing at the end, no matter how you land. Hopefully by this point, hopefully you know exactly where the block is at. Hopefully you've mapped the entire perimeter. You know where the edges are. You know everything, right? That's where I'm at. I know what's going to get me an answer. I know what's not going to get me an answer. I know what's going to get me an invisible wall. And unfortunately, I've done it to myself. My block is really big because they know my games, and that is the only way to keep me out. And so at this point, I am actively waiting. Okay. And it's just more Menace. I'm going to be honest with you. It's just more of me being a menace, but let me tell you the rest of what I'm doing. So at this point, my secret weapon is kind of just my community. It's that buddy intuition channeling where I can hold the intuition channel and they can help me ask questions. Or sometimes the fear is like my human energy crossing over with my higher self energy too much, which could in turn make it dangerous for my human in some way. And so sometimes having a friend just kind of like be a middle barrier to keep my energy over here and the Fuller over there temporarily while whatever gets sorted out, sometimes that's enough. So reaching out to my community is one of the ways, the most surefire way that I have. And nothing is really super surefire, but using my community is kind of my best bet for getting further answers. However, I'm still falling back on my own foundations, on my oracle cards that I have worked really hard to establish a really deep connection to, or maybe on my newer divination methods. Maybe I'm still trying to connect with my runes. Maybe I'm still trying to connect with my throwing bones. And I use this opportunity to help me make that connection, to help me ask questions. Maybe I'm going back to quiet meditation. Maybe I'm going back to guided meditation. Maybe I'm going back to different ceremonies and trying different things to change the vibration of my energy. Maybe I'm trying to go high and see if I get answers. Then I try to go really low and see if I get answers. I'm just exploring. I'm doing as much as I can to still gather as much information as I can. And I'm asking questions about what I can do as a human to either get past this or what I should be focusing on. And you guys know I don't like the word should, but like my current goals. What should I be focusing on instead of this? Should I be doing stuff? Should I be just waiting for you guys to handle it? Like, what do you recommend? And then what does the spirit recommend? And then what does that spirit recommend? I'm just gathering as much information as I can in the hopes that together with my team, because I'm being active in my journey, that together with my spirit team, we can get to the other side of whatever is going on. Okay, that's all I have for you today. I really hope that spirit lets this info out. I have done so many retakes, every single retake in the hopes that I got my wording perfect, that spirit will let you guys see this and that it will be helpful and that we can all take a super active role in our spiritual journey, in redefining what we want it to look like, in redefining what spirituality as a whole is for ourselves, for the collective, for Earth, for everything. So hopefully this helps. That is all I have for you now. I will see you guys next week. Best of luck. This should be a very interesting week, if nothing else. Fingers crossed.